In the shadows whisper low, demons lurking in the glow. Ancient voices call our names through the fire and the flames. Demons are real, feel the fear, them whispers dancing your
Up in the sky, what do I see? A UFO is looking at me. Lights flashing all around, bass bumping from the ground. Aliens grooving to the beat, hip-hop rhythms got them on their feet. Strange beings shaped to the flow, spaceships rocking to the show. I see a UFO flying high in the night, moving to the sound, everything's alright. Dancing in the stars and neon light, hop to the beat till the morning light. I see a UFO flying high in the night, moving to the sound, everything's alright. Dancing in the stars under neon light, hop to the beat till the morning light. I see a UFO flying high in the night, moving to the sound, everything's alright. Dancing in the stars and neon light, hop to the beat till the morning light. I'm the god, I rise and shine in this realm I'm divine. Like the world was just a sign. Feel the power,
Hey, yo,
it's all mine.
Hey,
All mine.
hey, yo, this is
From the clouds,
Hey, yo, this is CC from Pressure Boy, Fed Smoke on the East Coast. You're watching the WARR Multiverse.
Mountains bow, the ocean sway. I command night and day. On the god, feel the force. Every star on my course. Follow me on the source. Life itself, no remorse. From the clouds to the ground. In my glory, you are
Fucking fire, man. That was great intro, man. Good, wonderful, wonderful morning. I don't know about you, but it is a freaking tastic day. I'm having a great day, honestly. I woke up this morning feeling great. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. And it's not as warm as the summer is, but we here, we in it, we live, we chilling, we having a great day. We're sipping some coffee. If you ain't got your coffee, what the hell are you doing, bro? You are not living life to the fullest if you don't got that delicious, fantastic, slightly bitter coffee with great creamer that tastes like deliciousness. Awesome. If you're looking at the chat, in on Twitch or X or Kick. Right now, what's going on is the AI. We talked about it a few times. I created an AI bot for ourselves that's on my own. It's my own bot. Um, it's got it's like 85% perfect. Like we're almost there. It's runnable. It works. It it has a few things like it automatically answers chat for certain with a certain amount of words and a certain phrases. It has pre-programmed answers, but not too many. And it's got see, as soon as a message comes up, it answers with another thing. So and it's got 3 different personalities. So we're running the AI right now. I promised if you tuned into our stream on Thursday, I promised I'd run the AI during the podcast today. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm leaving it up. The terminal is up and running. It's my own. The only way the AI works is if I have the terminal running. Otherwise, it's gone. So right now, if you look, the AI is in the Discord and in Twitch. It didn't we have to fix it for Kick. And we have to fix it for let's go clear away these nonsense notifications from my phone so I can see only the important notifications. And so if you look at it, so you could use it in Kick and you could use it in Twitch and in the Discord. What we're gonna do is once I get the second PC up and running, we're gonna run the AI from that machine so that we could keep it up and running all the time. And then what'll happen is we'll pay for OpenAI and it'll be worth it and the AI will be up all the time. Now the thing is I wanted to create it so that it answers you in a certain way. I want it to answer. I don't want it to answer like AI, like you're just talking to ChatGPT or Grok. I wanted it to answer from my personalities that I created. So it'll give you like if you ask it a question and like it pulls the answer from OpenAI from the internet, but then will word the answer to you in its own certain way. So if you do ask, who are you? It says, a cosmic overlord, a cosmic deity of balance, embodying the duality of creation and destruction, chaos and order, with star-forged armor and eyes blazing like galaxies. They oversee all forms of conflict, guiding their followers to growth and transformation. All right. Now I want to switch the personality. So we created 3 different personalities. So Cosmic Overlord is you want to think of it as God. It tries to answer you in ways like a divine deity would, like in the ancient times. Like you would hear, this crazy conversation, you're talking to it, and all of a sudden it's like it says things like this, it'll like embodying the duality of creation and destruction. So you want to think like it would answer things in like proverbs or like ancient scripture, like creation and destruction. If you know that in Hinduism, that's literally the embodiment of Shiva, the great god. So it's literally things like that. Then we have how do I switch? I forgot the command to switch personalities. So then we have the second personality I made, which is Julius Caesar. Now, we made Julius Caesar because I'm, Caesar and all of that and in games and stuff, you'll see it around and whatever. Now, I'm obviously not Julius Caesar, but we'll play on the fantasy. So we created one personality to be like Julius Caesar potentially could have been, or at least how I perceive it from history books and in my mind and in all of that. Then there's the third person. So it'll answer things like that. It'll answer you in it'll answer you in ways like you want to think like an ancient person would answer, like a human, like, haha, my great accomplishments have made me an immortal, and sounds like very pompous and things like that. It's very funny. I'm gonna take a sip of this delicious coffee. If you ain't got your coffee, the fuck you doing? Uh, so so then the third personality is the god of war. Now we are the war multiverse, so I wanted to create a specific AI that acts like me when I'm in a really sarcastic and fuck around mood. Like if I want to mess with you or whatever, or maybe spit some truth, but like be like a trickster god where I say the truth, but I mix it in with falsehood, and so you don't really know what's true and what's not true. I want to go with, so that's exactly what the God of War personality is. In fact, I think I remember how to switch personality, God of War. There we go. Personality, God of War. See if it switches now. There we go. Yeah, so now we switch to personality, God of War, and now I ask, who are you? As the God of War, I bring fierce strategies, relentless energy, and tactical prowess to every battlefield across the war multiverse. Legends are born where steel meets fire. So, it'll say things like that. You know, now it's so I says hello, and it says prepare for battle. The God of War acknowledges you. So it keeps on going like that, and like how the other one had automatic responses and things like that. It'll automatically respond to chat messages and stuff. Here, let's post the X link again, and I guess it didn't auto respond, but whatever. So if you can go out and like that X link too, that'd be awesome. Retweet, view it, whatever. That'd be sweet. Appreciate it. Anyway, so that's the AI. So I promised I'd have it up and running today. So actually, let's check it in the live stream chat. In Discord, I mean, hello. Nice. And it responded automatically in there. All right, so it says a few things. So it works in the Discord, it works in Twitch, doesn't work yet on X. I mean on not X, on Kick. We'll get it going eventually. The goal is to eventually have it running all the time, so you could go to the chat on my website and see it running and stuff like that, and see people commenting on it and stuff. It'll be fun. So we'll have it up and running all the time. Now I don't know why. We'll have to figure out why it says I exceeded my quota for OpenAI, because I haven't used it in fucking days. So anyway, we're having a fantastic morning. It's fun. It's awesome messing with the AI that we built, so it's great. Like I said, it's like 85% perfect, plus or minus a little bit. We need a few things. What does it say? I want to switch to the other personality. Nice. So Julius Caesar, as a war god, embodies the virtues of strategy, ambition, and relentless conquest. Commanding armies with tactical brilliance, he inspires both loyalty and fear. So, it's fun. So we've created 3 different personalities. It works good. Um, does the talk command work? Hello, citizen. Caesar sees all. Speak and be counted. Hail, citizen. Yeah. So it answers. So if you use command talk, it answers offline mode, and if you use command ask, it answers online mode. Or if it doesn't have the ability, it'll tell you it doesn't have the ability, or it tells you just the basic command that it answers. So it's a lot of fun. Sup broskies, ads are starting on Twitch only for 90 seconds. All right. Twitch only, but not for Kick. So the field awaits planned strike and sees freaking glory. Oh my god. Now that reminds me, I forgot to look up something today before I started because I forgot the name. What is that? No. Yeah, but what? Uh, Nang, thank you. Now I remember that. Okay. Now, what's the name of the star? Name of star with. Okay. All right. So today's episode is titled Alien Constructs. Now, today we're talking about different ads are over on Twitch. Perfect, just in time. So today we're talking about alien constructs. Now, a few weeks ago we spoke about different we delved deep into the realm of astrobiology and different possibilities of what these beings could look like on other planets and other things and other places. And we thought it was awesome. um I thought it was a great episode. I invented a entirely new creature just off the top of the dome, and I was talking about it with you guys, and we had a lot of fun discussing the topic. So it was fantastic. I thought it was great. But today we're going to make a switch. Now, before, when we spoke about astrobiology, we spoke about alien beings, but we didn't speak about the aliens as in like UFOs, really. We spoke about aliens in their basic definition, just a sentient being that exists in another planet or another civilization, or really not even civilization, just a planet. That's really what we talked about. Just imagine going to a planet and you find some sort of elephant, some sort of snake creature or whatever, and then think about how they could be different based on the evolution or the genetics or the exposure to sunlight or different things like that from that planet. So it was very interesting. Now, today we're going to jump from the other side of the spectrum to alien constructs. We're going to be talking about construction projects and different type of engineering things that could be going on out in the universe. We've touched on this topic an immense amount of times. We talk about we're going to delve into von Neumann probes and things like that. So if you don't remember, von Neumann probes were postulated by the physicist who it's named after. What's his first name? Von Neumann. John von Neumann. There we go. So so anyway, so we were talking about minimize this screen so it doesn't distract me. So we were talking about different we were talking about different beings like this, and I wanted to delve into now the different engineering types of things. So, with von Neumann probes, it's very interesting because from there you could think of the idea that a civilization sends out some sort of technology or some sort of thing that allows them to influence other stars or spread themselves to other stars or other galaxies or other things like that. Now, it's really interesting because what happens is you think about it and you think it could be entirely possible. We're speculating ideas now on how to do these types of things for our own civilization. The idea starts when you realize that the vast distances of space are so incredibly difficult to traverse that you have to think of other ways to traverse it. One of the ways you could do it is von Neumann probes. You send out one or two probes, they go somewhere, they clone themselves, they make copies of themselves, and then one becomes two, two becomes four, four becomes eight, and each time they double until you have an army of robots doing exactly what you want. Now, today, not only Elon Musk, but NASA has been thinking about this for decades of different ideas where you send out a robot to go to Mars when we're on our way to Mars, and you send out the robot to go to Mars, and the robot goes and makes a copy of itself, and then those robots start building the shelter. They start preparing the way for humans to come. Well, wouldn't an extraterrestrial civilization do the same thing? Don't you think they would? Because if they did, if they wanted to go somewhere, if they wanted to do something, they could go out in the universe and say, hey, it's going to take us 5,000 light years to get there. So why don't, and, we need another 5 decades before we can finish the ship and get everybody trained up or 5 years or whatever, So let's say they need 10 years to build the technology, build the thing. So, but in the meantime, what they do is they send out these little robots, these little pieces of their technology to the place that they're going ahead of time. They plan out, they measure the robot measures the atmosphere, measures the chemicals, the different things going on in the universe, does this and that in the atmosphere of the planet. It figures all these things out. So you have to look at it and you say, gee, this is probably possible. In fact, we're talking about doing it now. Like I said, with Mars, we're talking about doing this same exact thing just with our nearest planet. Imagine doing that for a planet that's 5,000, 10,000 light years away. Well, of course you would do that. If you plan on going there, let's say your planet is under some sort of apocalypse. The whole planet is going to die and you got to relocate, right? Let's take it to the far extreme. Okay. The whole planet's going to die. You got to relocate your entire planetary population, but you have, 2 decades before it's official. It's officially the over, right? What do? You send out some von Neumann probes, you send out a few ships of people to go, you send out a couple of them ahead of time, an advanced force to meet with the robots, and then the main force comes behind, and then the citizens behind that. I mean, what are you talking about there? You're talking about a strategic plan in order to move from one thing to another based on engineering, technology, and principles, and physics. Take a sip of coffee. Man, nobody has better coffee than me on the whole planet. So, it's when you look at these possibilities, you realize that it's entirely not only possible, not only probable, but most likely. It's most likely that these things are actually occurring somewhere out in the universe. May not be here on Earth. Maybe some species in some other far distant galaxy found some other planet that they thought was nice and habitable for them. And again, it took another 5,000 years, and they send out probes, and then they send out the advanced force, and then the main force, and then the citizens all throughout the day. I mean, they continue on and on and on. It doesn't have to be here on the Earth. It doesn't have to be that we're talking about. It could be anywhere in the universe. So what happens is you realize, though, that this is entirely likely. Now, these von Neumann probes that they set out, now this is probably not what they call it, but it's what we call it on our planet here, because the scientists thought of the idea and made it. Now, it's interesting. If you look at history, he's actually not the first one to think of the idea, but he's the one to really popularize it and make it like a public thing. So we give him the credit for sure. But it's really interesting when you look back in history. There's so many different examples like that of multiple people working on the same project at the same time, coming up with the same idea, or one person becoming famous for the idea of their predecessor because for whatever reason. It's really interesting to see that across history, because you think like this one guy invented it and he was an absolute genius, but in reality he was a genius, sure, but he wasn't the only one. That's what the key. So when when we talk about different engineering principles too, you have to remember that not every planet is the same. Not every star is the same that you're going to. There are red giants and blue giants and white dwarfs and brown dwarfs and red dwarfs and pulsars and quasars and all these different stars that go around. And we know that these different stars all have planets around them. Some of them we're discovering are potentially habitable for human beings. But like I said, just because a planet is not habitable for human beings does not mean it's not habitable for other beings. Now, what's interesting too is we have other ideas out there in our own planet, in our own world, that exists all throughout the cosmos. We give it our own name, just like the von Neumann probe, but it's not the only thing. So there's another one that's similar to it called a Dyson sphere. Now, the idea behind the Dyson sphere, again, forget the scientist's first name, but it's named after him. Now, the idea behind the Dyson sphere is that you create a series of solar panels or some sort of similar technology that allows you to harness the energy from the planet. From the star. And what's interesting is this is entirely possible. They thought of the idea because they said, well, what are you going to do when you need all this energy to travel further and further into the stars? What are we going to do? Just go to each planet, mine for gas, make like a bunch of fill-up stations throughout space? Like, hey, bro, pump your gas here. Only $299 billion to fly through space. So don't worry, that's cheap. Like, what do you mean? You see the sign says $299, but it's $299 million to fill up your spaceship. That would be crazy. You need some other source of energy and fuel and technology. Insert Dyson sphere. The Dyson sphere's idea is that you keep on putting around the planet. Like I said, around the star. Like I said, you put the solar panels or some sort of similar thing to absorb the energy from that star and then convert it to usable energy and beam it out through the cosmos or whatever. And what's interesting about this is actually an amplification of Nikola Tesla's own ideas. Because Nikola Tesla had the idea that with his Wardenclyffe Tower out in Long Island and with his Tesla coils, his giant coils, he had the idea that you would put them around different nodal points on the planet, and that would be able to transmit energy wirelessly all around the world. And as the power jumped from one tower to the next tower, you could take in that energy that's traveling in between and use that for your own benefit. That was Nikola Tesla's idea. He then had the idea that you could eventually put these towers all throughout the cosmos and jump power from planet to planet, from star to star, from galaxy to galaxy. Literally throughout the entire cosmos, he had the idea to create a universe-wide energy grid. Well, if you think about it, if there really is a God that exists, God already created a universe-wide energy grid called the stars. The stars give out massive amounts of energy. There's all this area in between, but as we're learning, that field of energy still goes far down and still permeates those far distant places in the universe. Then when you go to another planet and you get closer, that you start to get that to another solar system, you start to get that influenced by that star's energy. Now, obviously, there's massive distances in space, so it's clearly probably not a perfect system, but it works, right? You have all the energy, and guess what? All these life forms and different things cluster around the energy. Closer you get to the energy, the more life that exists, probably, or at least in this solar system, it does. Until you get too close, and then you get planets like Venus and Mercury. So it depends. Again, it's all physics. But when you look at the idea of the Tesla coils and the Wardenclyffe Tower, it permeates into that idea of the Dyson sphere. Because if you take the Tesla coils, let's say I put a Tesla coil on the moon, on another moon around Venus or whatever, on another moon around Mars, on another moon, on another planet, on this and that. And then I put a Dyson sphere around the star. Then what happens is you could permeate that energy and send it through not only back to your planet, but you could send it from tower to tower that's traveling through the solar system and beyond. So it's really interesting because you could then speculate that you could take that power your system, and as the power travels between each tower, you could draw upon that energy. And as you go from tower to tower, you could draw upon the energy and go straight from where you start to where you end without ever having to refuel or do any of these things. I got to crack my neck. Oh, felt great. Okay, so so you got to. Oh my God! I just saw that on my own camera. That looks scary. It's like Halloween. So, but man, that felt great right there. Oh my God, that felt great on my neck. So, it's really, it's really awesome. And so I love looking at, all these different ideas of what you could do out in the universe, because the universe is a massive place. It is absolutely huge, bro. And if you want to think about how big it is, think about all the thousands of stars that we've discovered out in the universe. Well, if you look at it, those thousands of stars that we've discovered and thousands of planets that we've discovered around them only exist in our own galaxy. We have never seen another. We can only see the outlining shape of a galaxy. Our technology is not strong enough to peer into another galaxy yet. We can't look at another star from another galaxy. For all we know, the physics that we know exists, that we think is quote unquote universal, may only exist in this galaxy. For all we know, probably is universal, but we don't know. We've never been to another galaxy. We've barely even seen them. And we can't see anything beyond their outlying shape. They are just so far away, and the distances inside them is just so massive. We know that the closest one is still Andromeda, and Andromeda is twice the size of the Milky Way. If we were to collide, which some say that in a few billion years our solar systems will collide, that solar system is going to eat up ours. It is going to swallow it up. There's going to be that galaxy. I mean, they literally the you could go out and watch different videos of speculations of what it would look like, and it's so interesting because it looks like it's like a mixing of two chemicals in a water. You know, they don't want to mix it first. They slosh around together. They splash up against each other until finally they blend and they become, you know, one mixture together instead, you know. So I think watching those videos and documentaries and postulations like that is just so incredible. It's so fascinating to me. And you know, so with the Dyson sphere, you could do all these things. You could potentially have enough power at that point, once you travel through the cosmos, to propel yourself to another galaxy. Now, I forget the differences, I forget the distances between those galaxies, but as far as I remember, the distances between each galaxy is incredible. I mean, so this one is the one that we're talking about, where they think that they actually discovered a Dyson sphere, is the star associated. I'm looking it up right from here. It's called, they nicknamed it Tabby's star, and it's KIC 8462852, also known as Tabby's star or Boeotian star, discovered in 2015. Now, what's interesting is they discovered it. I forget, I was going to look up something else, but oh well. I already closed out of the window. What's interesting is they discovered it because they discovered it the same way they used to discover planets. Now, recently, we've switched our methods to discovering planets. We don't necessarily entirely look for the dimming of stars, but we're also looking for changes in fields of gravity and things like that, and in calculations. So we're doing a bunch of different things like that, but what we're talking about is the way that we've discovered planets for the past few decades. And the way that we've been doing that is you look at a star and you look for a dimming of the light coming from that star. Now, if you look up in the night sky, every one of those stars is a sun, just like our sun, with planets surrounding it. But it's so far away that all we see is a dot. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the millions of stars in the sky, like I said, all those stars only exist in our galaxy. It's impossible for us to see a star from another galaxy. So, that being said, when you look up at these stars, what you're doing is you're seeing the light. So let's say if the star is 10 million light years away, you're looking at the light. If I look up at the sky tonight and I look at a star and that star is 10 million light years away, I'm looking at the light from that star 10 million years ago. And it just took 10 million years to reach me here, to reach my eyes, for me to be able to see it. Because it traveled for 10 million years at the speed of light until it got to me and my eyes. And you and your eyes. So when you look at it, when you look at it and you think and you look at these stars, you think, okay, it's just a star, it's just a light. How realistic is there possible to be a planet around it? Turns out, after studying all these things, most scientists and physicists now today think that that almost every star has at least one or two planets around them. Every star. Every one. Every single of those millions of stars you look around in the galaxy has at least one or two planets around orbiting them. Just like ours. Revolving around them. Just like ours. So it's fantastic to think about, because that means that it's potential that every one of those millions of stars might have life, at least on one planet. And like I said, just because it's not possible for us to live on this or that planet doesn't mean it's not possible for another species, from another solar system. Who knows? It could be any one of those things. And so what's interesting too is that when you look at these stars, so when they look at these stars and they see the slight dimming around it, they know that if this happens often, they know that there's a planet there. We know that it's a planet there because for a little bit of time, the light dims as the planet crosses in front of it. Think about holding a flashlight at a certain distance and putting your hand across it. While your hand goes across the light, the light dims and or goes out, or appears blocked, and you only see the sides of it coming around your hand. That is exactly what they look for when a planet. The star is pumping out its bright light, and an object goes across it and dims it for a little bit. Now, it's hard because some planets in fact, most planets are not big at all. Most planets don't even give off any light or reflect too much light from their sun. So it's impossible to look at it like that, too. That's another thing. So, but by using this study to study how to look for planets, they discovered this possible Tabby's star, KIB, whatever numbers I said it was, and it's possible that they discovered a star with a Dyson sphere going around it. Take a sip of more coffee, man. It's good. Ooh, it's getting cold. Drink more. Okay. Now, when searching for these planets, they discovered that this Dyson sphere that goes around the star they noticed that it does constant dimming around the star. Now, it's interesting because when you look at a planet doing this, it's not that often, and it's not that big of a dimming, especially if it's a smaller planet. But this star emits massive amounts of dimming as if there were, hundreds of planets around it or something, traveling around it in circles and blocking out the light. And it emits things that happen all the time, emits light. Um, what is it? I want to switch the AI's personality. I want to switch because I wanted to. Uh, there we go. Okay. So anyway, okay. So anyway, so we have so by looking at this star, I switched the AI's personality now back to the God of War. So by switching by putting this von Neumann probe around the star, you could imagine that they would be using this energy. They would be using it for something. Now, it may not be, in fact, what they thought it was is, von Neumann thought of it as like a series of solar panels and stuff. But many physicists who are studying this anomaly in the universe are looking at it like a series of concentric rings around it, which is really interesting too, because if you think about it, that actually makes sense. You get a constant supply of energy, it revolves around the star, and everything is going to revolve around the star anyway. So you might as well build something that embodies that embraces that use of it. So I thought it was fantastic to look at this information. Now they had different ideas of what they could do with this, but one of the ideas you could do is colonize not multiple worlds in your in your solar system. Let's say, for example, you figured out how to like, let's say, for example, we did this on Earth, right? And by having that much energy, we were able to fix the greenhouse gas problem on Venus and make it a habitable planet for us humans. Or next, we were able to fix the atmosphere problem on Mars. We were able to terraform the planet and make it a livable space for humans again, also. And not just one or the other, but we had enough energy for both at the same time because of the energy that we're absorbing from the star. We have enough power to power these robots, to power these massive spaceships and machines and scientific technology and all these different things. And we have enough power to do all this because we're able to absorb the energy of the star. So it's really fantastic to think about because the energy of a star, while not unlimited forever, is almost limitless while it's working. While it's up and running, while it's giving ideas, not ideas, giving ideas. Yeah, the sun talks to me and gives me ideas all the time, every day. Every day I wake up and the sun gives me an idea. Yes, I pray down to the deity lords of the Almighty, and I go. So and I get ideas from the sun. So but what's interesting is you could look at these types of megastructures and realize that this is possibly what we're looking at as being one of the home bases of the aliens that potentially come here to Earth. Potentially. Now, the reason is because this would make a lot of sense if they had this power, this ability to harness this energy. It would make a lot of sense for them because they could then harness that energy and travel to different solar systems. Maybe it even hires enough power or provides enough power for them to not need to go and or maybe it provides enough power for them to be able to travel to this solar system and visit here on the Earth. Possible. We don't really know for sure, obviously, but it's entirely possible. It's also possible that these beings, like we spoke about that one time with in fact, let's jump into that now. Like we'll speak about it again. Recently I read this whole thing where the scientists are starting to or a couple scientists are thought of an idea where you put the um you put these little tiny like microchips basically with a little tiny parachute and use these laser beams to launch them out. Now, you could do that and put some sort of biology on them, and as soon as they crash land on a planet, they release that biology, and that biology influences the planet over the course of the next few millennia. And suddenly you realize that they populated the planet. It was interesting because we think of it as like a computer chip, with a little tiny parachute sail type of thing that we're just going to shoot laser beams out of it and whatever, and shoot laser beams at it like we're playing laser tag, and send it to another far distant planet. Yeah, we could do that, but what would another civilization do? Well, if you look at what's his name, Dr. Wainwright, who does the ideas on panspermia and the idea that life is extremely prevalent throughout the entire cosmos, throughout the entire universe, and it's coming here all the time. All the time it's coming here to this planet, to this world. And when coming here, they look at it and they say, well, these life forms are basically microbes. They're tiny little life forms. They're not, sentient beings like us. It's not like you're sending fully fledged aliens here. But we were just talking about seeding a planet with some computer chips. Why couldn't you seed a planet that way through some biology means? Through some spheroid or whatever. Now, if you look at some of the images Dr. Wainwright has gotten, you look and you see that, especially that one that made it onto Ancient Aliens with the titanium and molybdenum sphere that was shooting out some sort of biological material that they ended up testing and determining was biological, so in nature. So what's interesting too is that could be a von Neumann probe. That could literally be well, maybe not like a robot probe, but it could be a type of way to send an advanced force of your people, or way to preserve your people. Think about the technology behind that. You had to get a little tiny uh the size of 2 microns, 3 microns, little tiny titanium and molybdenum sphere, weld it together. You have a whole bunch of biological material in there. You want to think of your proteins and your fatty acids and your carbon and nitrogen based and genetics and all of that. You want to put that into like some oozing liquid, shove that in the little ball, seal it up, send it off into space. Maybe a few thousand, maybe a few million years later, suddenly that sphere lands on another planet. Crash lands, the titanium breaks because it can't handle the heat of an atmosphere, even if it's only 3 microns large. And boom, all those genetic material falls out. Now, that's great, but one? Well, what about hundreds? What about thousands? Now, I remember reading, this was a few years ago, so this was probably like a 2009 discovery, 2011 discovery, that they had that discovery of down in on the coast of Africa and South America of those giant spheres that they found that was half cracked, that were millions of years old. They were able to date them millions of years old and literally had biological material in them. Some scientists then speculated that this could be proof that our planet was seeded for life. Not only seeded, but purposefully seeded for life. And so what do we call that? We call that directed panspermia. Now, with directed panspermia is different too, because you have, with panspermia, regular panspermia, not impossible that this could just be a normal circumstance of life. Think about it, for example. It probably is a normal circumstance of life. When a planet dies, let's say a meteor impacts a planet and that planet explodes and breaks off into a million pieces. But on that planet was human beings or some sort of other being, a sentient being, animals, plants. All of that has micrological parts to it. Is that even a word, micrological? If it's not, I just invented it. Has microbiological parts to it, including down all the way to the cellular level. That's the key, is you got to, get some of that in there. Get some of that cell DNA, that cell information, and put that out there. Well, what if they did that? It's not impossible. So in fact, the universe has been around for billions of years. For all we know, a million different civilizations rose and fell. Some people tried to conquer the universe. They were traveling in space and then they died. And guess what? That was 2 million years ago. Something like that. And we're just here in our own little world, in our own little bubble. So with regular panspermia, it's not impossible. Because if these planets, let's say they explode, the leaves on that tree are going to break apart, burn apart. They won't be able to survive in space. But what will be able to survive is its little microbiological parts, its microbes, its DNA, it's all that stuff. That stuff will be able to survive in space. And then when it gets to another planet, we see it as a meteor. or an asteroid or this or that. But in reality, it's a piece of a planet, and that little piece has biological products to it. Now, what's also interesting is this actually happened in our planet, on our planet, in our modern day times. If you look up in, I think it was 2016 in India, they had what was known as this red rain. And what's interesting is they call it blood rain because it's literally red, the color of blood, and it looks like the sky is straight up bleeding. Well, there are thousands of ancient texts, both religious and just historical accounts of this red rain, this blood rain, not just in India, but in other parts of the world too. So what's crazy is that, these all throughout the world, these stories of the blood rain come, and it was a few years afterwards that scientists and astrophysicists looking back into space discovered that what happened just before the blood rain, a meteor strewed through the sky and broke up in the atmosphere. And when they tested the blood rain, they discovered biological material. Isn't that interesting? Biological material. Can't believe it. Can't believe that they discovered biological material. And this biological material turned the water in the rain to red. Excuse me. It's that delicious coffee coming back to haunt me. Turn the rain to red. And so, the rain turned red, and this happened for many centuries over multiple different parts of the planet. And it was only in 2000 and I think it was 16 that we realized that this is what's causing it, is a meteor. And also there were other accounts of similar things like this all throughout history. There's one in the Bible. If you read in the book of Exodus, with Moses and his battles with the Pharaoh, with God and the Pharaoh's gods, you read into it and you realize that what they're doing is they're having a battle with all these quote unquote superpowers, and magic, which is actually really just like I don't even know what it is, but they have all these stories and one of the stories has to do with the rain. It was raining frogs at one point, and it rained something else, and everybody was dead from disease. Well, what could do that? Maybe a biological thing, maybe some sort of genetic biologics that went in there and went into the water, and you drank it and then died because it had some sort of chemical that was not native to this planet or whatever. Very interesting to think about, because these things exist all over the world. Now these spheres, these little, not the Dyson sphere, but these little tiny spheres that have potential biological things in them. You can't look at it and say, oh, this is the only thing. You have to look at it and say, all of these things are possible. In fact, I argue that most likely, that the panspermia theory and directed panspermia theory are both right, both happening all the time. They discovered recently that these algae and other little plankton and tardigrades and stuff, tiny microscopic animals and genetic material has no problem surviving in space. Most of them just go into hibernation mode. I mean, so you could imagine then if they got stuck on a planet, on a rock in space that was totally frozen over. I mean, that would probably be pretty comfortable for that piece of biology. So who knows? So back to the technology, because the Dyson sphere is a really great example, especially how they discovered it. That's a really great example. It really just shows how advanced we've gotten in studying our science and in studying the universe around us. But what about other technologies that could exist? We talked about the von Neumann probes for a little bit. We talked about Dyson spheres and Tesla coils being used to permeate power throughout the entire universe, not just our own galaxy or solar system. And we talked about using technology to send out biological materials. Now, what's also interesting is we're talking about this today. We're talking about terraforming Mars. And how we're going to do that? One of the things they talk about is sending a bunch of biological material and releasing it into the atmosphere. And some scientists say, hey, all that biological material is frozen in the north and southern poles of the planet. Just send a nuke and wipe them out, release all the, or a giant missile or something, and melt the polar caps, and all those genetic material will flow out and repopulate the planet. That's part of some people's terraforming idea. Is that possible? It might be, actually. But, that's just one of the ideas. I mean, you have an idea to terraform a planet. Who's to say that the aliens didn't do that to this planet? In fact, some say that they might have. Because if you think about it, if the dinosaurs who died 65 million years ago, or most of them died 65 million years ago, if you look at those beings and the asteroid that came down and struck it, if you think that could have been sent on purpose, then that would be a type of terraforming, because an asteroid of that size would have destroyed most of the planet and the atmosphere, caused destruction for thousands of years to come, if not, hopefully just only a few hundred, but definitely a few hundred years to come. And so it's crazy because these species could have done this exact thing. They could have literally sent an asteroid to destroy the dinosaurs in order to make way for their children, their life, to make way for their future generation. So but it's really interesting because you go to these planets, and how else would you terraform a planet? How else would you make it to be the way you want it to be? Well, there's one interesting thing. There's one of my favorite myths is the Earth before the moon. Now, this appears in some Greek texts as well as in other texts. Well, mostly in Greek text. And the Earth before the moon is, what is that? Just that. The moon didn't exist. It was a time of chaos and destruction and death and famine and war and this and that. How did that come to pass? Well, there was no moon, so it would be, honestly, it would come to pass that these that there's trouble on the planet. Remember, we need the moon right now to regulate our tides, to regulate our water, and give us regular sunlight and regular warmth each day for a certain period of time, and blah blah blah. On and on and on. So when you look at it that way, you realize that, hold on a second, this is entirely possible of what was going on. If you read the ancient texts, they say that the earth was total chaos. There was no balance. And what's interesting too is in Greek myth, Zeus's father Kronos is unbalanced, on this, on that, all the opposite things, all the things that are reflective of the earth without the moon. So you look at it and you see it's the earth without the moon. You're like, how could that be possible? Well, it's possible if the moon is an artificial structure. The moon is really interesting because a lot of scientists have begun to notice over the past few decades that, in fact, they noticed it almost immediately, that the moon, every single crater, no matter how big or small, never has more depth than the other. They might have less depth, but they never have more depth. D-E-P-T-H, depth. They might have more depth because they looked at it and they said, I lost my train of thought. Oh, fuck me. Oh, goddamn. Stupid. It's, you could look at this and you could say, this is oh my God, why do I keep losing my train of thought, bro? I'm not right today. I'm not right in the head. I'm not right in the mind. I'm not right in anything. Oh my God. But anyway, these, you could imagine that you would do something like this and put in the atmosphere and asteroids and take over. Man, I really blanked for a minute just now. Oh my God, it was crazy. How far into this are we? An hour and 12 minutes, bro. It's crazy. We've been talking about this awesome conversation for a good period of time. So, but it's really interesting because all these different ideas of structures that exist. Oh, the moon, that's what we were talking about. How could I forget about the time before the moon? And it back to what I was saying about Kronos and Zeus's father. Kronos is the embodiment of chaos. So if you think of the earth without the moon, you could think of the earth being chaotic. Well, that could be Kronos. And then you think of, order and structure with the invention of the gods and the pantheon of the gods. Well, you could think of the earth being ordered and structured now that now that I've organized things and terraformed things because we added this moon. And by adding this moon, we were able to, balance out the atmosphere and balance out the planet and balance out the chemicals and the water, keep the tides regular, keep the wobble of the earth's tilt. Because that's another thing they said too, is they were like, well, the earth's tilt could have been way more wobbly without the moon. Possible. In fact, that's probably correct. Now, what's interesting too is they said that these beings existed on the earth before the moon. Everybody existed, and in order to fix the planet, you had to first create a moon. And each of these craters that hit the moon are all the same depth. That's what I was saying about depth. So what was interesting too is they literally NASA experimented with this with all those Apollo missions and stuff like that. They dropped they would hit the moon and they heard it ring like a bell as if it was hollow, and they dropped one of the fuselages on the moon and it like echoed, and you were able to hear it and very, very far away from the sun, from the moon, out in the atmosphere. out in the galaxies. You were able to hear all of this giant gong sound. They were able to hear it. Now, imagine that for a second. First of all, how would you create an entire moon? I mean, how would you do that? What is this, like Star Wars and the Death Star? I mean, that's crazy. But yet, this is what they say. And if you were to do this, it makes sense because if you were to go to a planet that's like, you know, 90% perfect, even 80% perfect for you, for your civilization, your people, whatever, if it was almost there, you might want to do something like this, create a giant moon. And what could that moon do? It could absorb some of the energy from the atmosphere and give you more power to power your ships. It could be part of like another Tesla coil. So you have no idea. So it could be all these different things. And another thing that's interesting too is we talked about those little probes and those little satellite probes with computer chips with the laser beams and stuff, but that doesn't have to be what you send out. You know, Dr. Avi Loeb from Harvard thinks that some of these asteroids or comets or whatever might be purposefully sent here with biological material in them or be used as a spaceship itself. Maybe that's possible. But what's not possible is that no, what was I going to say that was not possible? No, it's forget what's not possible. Because we want to talk about what's possible. So when you look at it, it's possible that we could do something like this today and make it so that you can do everything. I don't know. Man, I am drawing blanks today. We are not locked in. We were locked in and now we are drawing blanks. The mind is not straight up there still. Oh my God. But anyway, so there are all these different possibilities of structures around the world. We could do this too. You could create a moon that, and do stuff like that and travel its energy through and help it transmit energy and help it regulate the planet you want to be on. I mean, there's what about those stories of those people who came and they say they came from a twilight world where it was like mostly green or whatever? I mean, that could be another planet. I mean, you're looking at the sky and the sky is like green and black, like as if it's in like a perpetual state of twilight. That's crazy. Um, but yeah, so it's really fascinating to me, all these different possibilities of alien megastructures and things like that, because there's all these different possibilities and probabilities that can happen in the universe. The entire universe is a massive place. Like I said, we've only started to discover things now. Avi Loeb went and got that whole entire ship to go search for that meteor in the ocean, and they're testing it still, and all these different things. So it's really fascinating. Honestly, I encourage everybody to go out and look this up. I love reading about this, but so there's all different types of possibilities, and all different type of structures and constructions that they're using and that they're making. This isn't a conversation about UFO ships. We could talk about that another time. In fact, that's all we've talked about that before. This was a conversation about alien technology and things that could be used to help advance their societies, especially because some of these societies could be millions and millions of years old. All right. I am straight not locking in, but I think we hit the point. There are so many different structures out there. I want you to go out there and look them up. I want you to learn about the Dyson sphere. I want you to learn about the von Neumann probes and all these different things. Go look up what Avi Loeb is doing at Harvard. It's really incredible. and look up UFO disclosure, all things like that. And really appreciate you joining in with me today. It's been absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, whatever you would do for your preferences. Please follow on X so you get up to the minute notifications. We post a lot there, and we post a lot of our go live notifications, or if stream is canceled and things like that, right there on X. So I would appreciate that too. Much absolute love, y'all. W freaking stream. Let me get a chat. Thank you. Yes, W freaking stream. W awesomeness. W conversation. Really absolutely fantastic. Much love y'all, but we are out of here for the day. We will see you next week on Thursday for Shadow of War. We're going to be playing. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm excited again. I love that game. All right, it's time to go. Peace out, y'all. We out here.